The NASCAR Peak Antifreeze Series powered by iRacing.com has officially begun. It's all in control of Brad Davies in that 11 machine. Green flag flies. He's damn near banged up though. Now the 93 is going to push the 4 of Brian Day all the way up the wall. 4 wide down the super stretch point in the turn. And now the 93, 39, the 30 machine goes around. Big trouble in the back. It's been a race to the win up front.
Look behind him. They're 3 and 4 wide, trying to make a push to the front as the field gains speed in turn number 1. Kenny Humphrey, if he can rip it back to the start finish line, will win here at Daytona.
7 laps to go.
Oh,
As you love it.
here we go.
You love it. The 1 gets around. The 5 gets around. Big choke.
The NASCAR Peak Antifreeze Series powered by iRacing hits the road this evening. Literally, this is round number 13 of the NASCAR Peak Antifreeze Series powered by iRacing at the Watkins Glen International Raceway. This is the first road course race for this series in the series history. This one's going to be fun, I just have a feeling. Tim Terry, Tony Stevens returning with us to the booth, and Joe Cortez. And Tony, welcome back to the series, and picked a good race to come back to.
Oh, let me tell you, Tim, looking forward to this one. Watkins Glen's always been a track to produce some great racing. It's always exciting, and really it's going to be something very, very unique, I think, here tonight because, as you said, first time the series has been here. First race, I believe, the series has had, well, no caution flags. This is going to be 50 laps green no matter what happens. So drivers are going to have a different mentality here. It's all about trying to save time. Every time you lose time, you can't rely on a caution flag to get that time back. You're going to have to make it up in the pits or on the racetrack. So there's going to be an emphasis on consistency, an emphasis on hitting your marks, and an emphasis on simply minimizing mistakes. And the guy that makes the least number of mistakes here tonight will probably be on the top step of the podium, hoisting a trophy at the end of the night, Joe.
Well, it's not only about that. It's not only about making mistakes. It's also capitalizing on other people's mistakes and putting yourself in a position where you can capitalize on them. 12 turns at this Watkins Glen course makes for a very challenging course that will test the skill set of every single driver out here, which is a very unique challenge. As you both mentioned, this is the first time the NASCAR Peak Antifreeze Series has come to a road course. And Watkins Glen, while it's got a different degree of difficulty than its sister track, or sort of sister track in Sonoma, spiritual sister, if you will, this will definitely be a test, and this will definitely be an opportunity for the cream of the crop to rise. But more importantly to all of that, there could not be a finer race for the final drop to come into play. After this, the drop will be put into place, and we'll have 4 races for every driver to be on their best show to end the season.
And when you look at the point standings as well, Joe, heading into that final 4-race stretch, you have Ray Alfalla, who won his first race of the 2014 season 2 weeks ago at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, up in front by 2 points over Mike Conti. Everybody's been saying, and if you look at the results earlier in the week, Conti's been doing a lot of racing at Watkins Glen International in the iRacing service. This should be his race, by the way everybody is saying, but we still have 50 laps to run. So watch the 5 to make a big splash here this evening. He will start this race in the pole position. Chad Lawton only 5 points behind Ray Alfalla. Then there's a little bit of a drop, 21 points, albeit we have not factored in that drop yet. Nick Ottinger, 345 points to Ray Alfalla's 366. Chris Overland, Jake Sturgis, who should be good here this evening as well. Matt Busa, Kenny Humphrey, Brian Blackford, and Danny Hansen completing your top 10. 1 or 2 weeks ago at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, it was Ray Alfalla, Chad Lawton, Chris Overland, Mike Conti, Brian Blackford, your top 5, with Nick Ottinger finishing in 32nd position. And we go into that stretch, Tony, 4 races where you cannot use a drop in those 4 races. Essentially, whatever you put in those 4 races goes towards the point standings. There's no mulligan at Atlanta, Richmond, Darlington, or Homestead, those final 4 races. So this might be that last opportunity that if you do stumble, you can use a drop here, but this is the last opportunity you'll have.
Yeah, and I think that's one reason that iRacing put this race where they did in the schedule. Now, the problem is, if you're one of these drivers that's had a bad night at some point in the first 11, 12 weeks of the season, well, guess what? You can't use this as your mulligan. You have to perform here. So there's a little bit of extra pressure on you if you've used that mulligan. And if you haven't, if you finish top 5 every week and you've been just absolutely hunky-dory fast, well, guess what? Now you can take this race, have some fun with it, and if you crash out, not a big deal. So we're going to see a couple of different agendas, I think, Joe, and that's going to be interesting as well to see who's going to be aggressive, who's going to be very passive and simply try to survive this race and get a good finish versus those who actually go out and try to take a good finish away from this locale.
You're absolutely right there, and I think that it's really what's going to play very interesting into this race is the fact that there's going to be no caution flags on this track. If you're out, you're out. You don't have an opportunity to use the caution to get you back in the line and get you moving. If you get wrecked, if something happens to your car, you're done. Say good night. That could definitely hurt these guys as we move forward into this race. 50 laps, going to be a very long 50 laps here at Watkins Glen International. Let's take a look at the weather real quick from the iRacing Weather Service. Partly cloudy skies today, 87 degrees with no wind. Relative humidity about 66%, so it's going to be a hot, humid day here for the virtual rendition of Watkins Glen, New York. For all of these drivers to take it out, guys, I don't think weather will come into play for these guys very much because of the nature of the road course. So you can't use that as a excuse. It's really going to be a test of your skill, ability, and what you can do in 50 laps.
So looking at this field, obviously it's a different animal than we do every single second Tuesday night where we do the ovals. It's a road course, and looking at the warm-up and the top 5, the same 5 drivers are occupying those top 5 positions. You have Conti, Ottinger, Alfala, Busa, PJ Sturgis in the top 5 in warm-up, and those are the same 5 drivers in the exact same order of how they will line up when we do go green. Michael Conti's been good here this week. Ray Alfala obviously has had previous experience in the iRacing World Championship Grand Prix Series. Ottinger has been good. PJ Sturgis has also had some road experience on the iRacing World Championship Grand Prix Series. But Matt Busa might be the dark horse per se in this race, gentlemen. And Tony, he ran well earlier in the NASCAR iRacing Series earlier in the week to Mike Conti. Busa might have something here, but he's going to have to be on his A game.
Racing, and that undoubtedly makes him the favorite coming into tonight. But again, all it takes is one mistake in the NASCAR iRacing Series, the Class A Series, any of those, guess what? You have caution flags available to you. You have some chances to make up for mistakes and get back by a guy and if you slid off course and let by. Tonight, that's not going to happen, and I think Conti's going to face the stiffest competition that he has faced all week here tonight. But that could make him thrive on the pressure, Joe. Might be one of those deals where Conti gets that much better.
And Mike and Conti will need to get that much better. Comes in with only a 2-point lead over Ray Alfala.
Laps at Watkins Glen International will step away for a few moments, get a couple of words from our series sponsor, and then we will bring you the starting lineup for this evening's round number 13 of the NASCAR Peak Antifreeze Series powered by iRacing at Watkins Glen.
This is where it gets difficult. This is where your name's on the line, everything's on the line. You get that one chance to go out there and put down your best performance with the most amount of pressure.
By the way, you got to do that now. It's now or never.
First thing that went through my mind was like, no way. Just be real important to try to figure out how to keep the tires under him and run a smart 150 laps.
They might bump him around a little bit, but what doesn't kill you makes you stronger.
Everybody should enter next year's contest because you never know what could happen, man. You can come out here and run top 5 in your first K&N West race. So I'm so psyched right now. This is incredible.
Welcome back to round number 13 of the NASCAR Peak Antifreeze Series powered by iRacing at Watkins Glen International, our only road course stop of this 2014 season. Let's go down our starting grid for this 13th round. We begin with car number 5, Mike Conti, trying to take back the point lead. He put up a qualifying time of 1 minute 11.873 with Nick Ottinger in the 05 to his outside. The only two drivers, Tony, to dip under 1 minute 12 seconds.
And really only 5 drivers are in a class by themselves, the next 2 of which includes, I should say, car number 2, Ray Alfala, and Matt Busa, the 34 we spoke of earlier. He's been the outside of row number 2.
PJ Sturgis, the 57 machine, will start in row number 3 on the inside, technically, in position number 5. The 36 of Justin Bolton, the Best Western machine, will start position number 6, the 36.
If there's any other drivers to challenge for that top 5, you better believe Jake Sturgis is a part of that conversation. He starts in 7 to the outside, 32, Danny Hansen.
Chris Overland rolls off 9th in the 47 car, and Adam Gilliland in his Chevrolet starts 10th.
Joey Brown, a previous winner this year, will start position number 11 in the 12. Michael J. Johnson, the 39, starts 12th.
Brandon Bowie, well, the Brandons are right together there in the 54 machine. He'll start 21st, and Rob Ackley will pilot his number 22 from position 22.
Landon Harris in the 89 starts position number 23 on the outside of row number 12, the 33 of Brian Blackford.
Cody Bias, 25th. Brad Mahar, 26th.
Brandon Schmidt in the 3 rolls 27th, and Stephen Gilbert in the number 37 rolls 28th.
Trey Edson on the inside of row number 15 in the number 6 car. On the outside of him, the 80 of Brandon Cattell, 30th.
31st is Mitchell Hunt. 32nd, Kenny Humpy.
Getting down the drivers that didn't take time, including Brandon Cherburko and Brad Davies in row number 17.
Andrew Fayash III will start shotgun on this field. In the number 77 machine starts 35th. That is your entire field tonight. A short field, guys, but that's not necessarily a bad thing for road racing.
We are getting ready to go green for the first of 50 laps this evening. Pace car in, Conti gone. Green flag flies, and we are underway. It's going to be side-by-side for a second with Ottinger and Alfala going down. And guys, they're all going to funnel into corner number 1. We'll see if they all make it out.
Through the right-hander that is turn number 1, the field now up through the gears, on the hammer hard, up the hill through the right-hander that is the S's here at Watkins Glen International, and Mike Conti, Joe. Look at that lead already. He's out to 6-7 car lengths over second place Ray Alfala, and Conti is already checking out. He said, I'm heading to Elmira. Catch me if you can.
Through the S as he goes now to the bus stop. Michael Conti will not be stopped. Alfala leading the line, though, as Nick Ottinger, PJ Sturgis, Matt Busa all behind him. Jake Sturgis, the 41, trying to catch up to the 34 now.
Conti's plan tonight is to lead every single lap of this race as you ride on board with Ray Alfala, looking out to the 05 of Nick Ottinger as Ottinger tries to take position number 2 away from car number 2. They slow down going up into the corner, and Conti's leaving everybody behind, and albeit it's only lap number 1, Conti has a huge lead here, and don't look now, the 57 of Sturgis is closing in on this second place battle.
Sturgis is starting to slowly reel them in, Tim, but again, they're all chasing Conti, and I think Sturgis and Alfala and company as well. Problems out of turn number 7. We've got issues here coming out of the front straightaway, Joe.
Trying to find out exactly who that is. Remember, no cautions out here tonight. It will be the MBD Toyota of Rob Ackley, the 22 machine, involved in that incident coming in through turn number 7. There, he got involved with the 33 machine, I believe. That's correct, of Brian Blackford. Those two drivers will get into it, and they'll bring the 22 around. No cautions, so we keep running.
Yeah, Tony, I don't know what you saw, but it kind of looks like Blackford just ran him over going into the final corner of this course, and tough break for Rob Ackley, because Ackley right now sits 21st in this series when it comes to the point standings, and you want to be in the top 20 in order to secure yourself into the series for 2015. So it's a tough break for Rob Ackley. I'm sure Rob will try to rebound from that one, but it's tough. I don't know if there was much else that Rob could have done there.
Not a whole lot that Rob could have done. I think Blackford maybe got a little overzealous, but we talked about in the open how this is a different style of racing. Not even so much for the fact we're turning right and left, Tim, but for the fact, Joe, that there are no cautions. You've got to go, and otherwise you're going to keep losing ground. There's no chance to make up lost ground, and that means drivers more than likely are going to be a little more aggressive, and I think that's just a product of that mentality that we just saw over in turn number 7.
And there's going to be natural atrophy as a result of that. You'll see drivers come in and out of this race as they can, and with that drop race coming into play as a result of this race, I imagine you'll see some of those drivers just make the decision, okay, we're done, we'll drop this race, we'll come back for the next 4 weeks, but you'll see others who can't afford that to still try to make an effort, whatever that means.
Problem! Somebody's blowing up in the bus stop chicane. We've got black smoke billowing for the 12 of Joey Brown. Joe, didn't mean to exactly interrupt you, but looks like something has gone awry, and he's apparently missed a shift, and now Joey Brown's night is done before we've even got 5 laps on the board, Tim.
Yeah, it looks like he just missed a shift going down, pulled it in, and he will be done for the evening, and that's tough for Joey Brown on lap number 3 after running in position number 10 when that thing happened. And guys, I don't think that's the last that we've seen of anything like that, because these guys are going to be going at it hard. And you know, you go to an oval racetrack, yeah, sure, you have to hit your marks, but you have to hit a few more corners here every single lap. As Conti is 1.4 seconds gone through 3 laps, that's getting it done.
It's getting it done, Tim, no doubt, but I think we all have to wonder how much is he going to burn up. This race is about 125 miles, roughly, and that means you are going to have to make 1 pit stop. The question is, when do you make that pit stop, Joe? Do you short pit, make it 1 long run to the flag? Do you run the entire run and make it a short run at the end? Do you split it down the middle? It's really hard to say. And as you see there on the screen, the footwork of Michael J. Johnson, that footwork also has a play in your fuel strategy and how much mileage you get out of the car.
Oh, absolutely. As you watch Michael J. Johnson dance the pedals there, he's doing a little dirty dancing of his own on the track, trying to do whatever he can to keep this car moving the right direction. And something I think we don't talk about as much, we got the car flipped over, guys. Kenny Humpy is flipped over by a bus stop. The 58 machine on its lid. He is done for the night as a 58. Wow, not exactly sure what happened. He got run over by the 6 of Trey Eidson, and the 58 ends up on its roof. Call it a night for Kenny Humpy. They're done.
Yeah, not exactly sure what Kenny Humpy was thinking there. He lost it coming out of the S's, I do believe there, and he got ran over, left it in the flow of traffic, and Trey had nowhere to go. I'm sure the race officials aren't going to look very kindly on that gentleman, as Kenny Humpy is out of the race, and I'm sure he's not very happy with, or Trey won't be very happy with him. But nevertheless, I talked to Jordan Hightower, crew chief for the number 89 of Landon Harrison, and Landon's crew chief tells me, Tony, that they're going to try to split this race in half. They're going to go to about lap 25, make that pit stop, and then go the second half of the race. But you talk about some of these drivers maybe wanting to run the car maybe a little bit lighter and maybe go as far as they can, take less fuel, and maybe it's a little bit quicker. Whatever the case may be, at this point, they're going to have to try to find something to stop Conti, because Conti continues to extend the lead over Ray Alfala and Nick Ottinger, and Ottinger maybe closing in just a wee little bit on the 2 car as they come out of the final corner down the front straight.
Maybe just a little bit, Tim. He is closing in. He thought about maybe taking a look, but nowhere near close enough to make a move on that second spot as we watch a little bit further back in the field with Brandon Honk and Thomas Lewandowski right there as well. Chad Lawton is there in the 26, and Brandon Bowie there too with the 54. These guys, that's a good 4-way fight down to the right-hander. This is turn number 1. And we've got action all over the racetrack. These guys are making passes. We've got passes for Byron Daly moving his way forward. So a lot of action happening around Watkins Glen International here in the early going.
Watching the back of that 93 of New Intelligence Ford as Byron Daly gets around 69 of Peter Bennett. That will move Byron Daly into position number 13. The point I was trying to make before we had Kenny Humpy get involved in that incident was talking about the pedals, talking about how you control the car, how you work the pedals and how you work the brake and the gas have a big effect on how you run this track, and not only from a conservation standpoint, from a control standpoint as well. Miss a braking point or hit the gas too early, and you're going to end up going somewhere you don't want to go on this track and potentially ending your night before it even begins.
And you look at the pedals again on the number 39 and Michael J. Johnson as he chases down Adam Gilliland in car number 8. And Joe, correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't these 2 guys have a little bit of a run-in at Indianapolis 2 weeks ago?
I believe you are correct. They do have a history coming into this race where one cost the other's race that evening. So it wouldn't surprise me if we see some shades of that tonight.
And Tony, one more thing that these drivers were warned of in the drivers' meeting is blocking. There was a lot of blocking going on 2 weeks ago at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. These drivers were told that one move is fine, 2 moves is not, and there could be penalties if there is more than 2 moves. So Adam getting a little bit of an advantage right now on Michael J. Johnson. That is the battle for position number 10 as they work through the bus stop. But you might need to keep a half little eye on that, especially when we come down to maybe after pit stops we see some guys that are faster than others and see how much they do decide to throw a block or 2 or 3.
Yeah, I think as we get later in the race is when that's going to come into play, but that also means, Tim, that the field's going to have to be on top of each other for that to really be an issue. And I like that rule. It's kind of adopted from IndyCar as far as what they do. They give a driver a chance to make an offensive, defensive maneuver, whatever the case might be, but basically pick a line, make one swipe at it, and then you're done. After that, if you move back around, then you put yourself and others in danger. So I think it's a good compromise, especially given the environment we're in, that you can try to save the position, but you can't be all over the racetrack because especially in a simulated environment where computers sometimes can miss and misjudge and miscalculate, also known as warp, that's probably a good thing, I think, Joe.
Oh, absolutely. It's so many things that can go wrong. They're looking out for what's best for the business, what's best for the racers out there, and what's best for competition. So I think that's actually a good move by iRacing. Michael Conti still in the lead. He has extended his lead to almost 2 seconds over Ray Alfalla. Alfalla squarely in second over Nick Ottinger, sitting in third. PJ Sturgis, Mambusa rounding out the top 5. And guys, the gaps continue to widen between the leaders. Conti still has almost 2 seconds over Alfalla. Ottinger a half second away from Alfalla. Everyone else easily a second away from each other.
Yeah, there's a couple of battles in between this field. I look back to Peter Bennett in 14th, the 69 car, the 82 of Alex Warren, Brandon Hawk, and Chad Lawton are running a little snake around this racetrack right now, 14th back to 17th. The 8 and 39 are running within about a half second of each other. And then you got some packs in the back. Brandon Schmidt has a little bit of company behind him in the way of Brad Davies and Brad Mayhar. There's a couple of the 2-3 car battles throughout the pack, but as you mentioned, quick passes right now. These guys just trying to pick off positions as they can, as we have that 82 pack that we just alluded to, Tony, with Peter Bennett, Alex Warren, Brandon Hawk, and Chad Lawton. And Lawton is one of those drivers. Yes, he is third in points. Yes, there is 5 points between himself and the leader, but no, he's not one of those road course guys. So I'm not saying that this could be his drop race. He's just trying to hold on for dear life in this one. At least he's doing well so far through 9 laps. He's running 17th.
He's doing a very respectable job right now trying to hang on to that Toyota. And you know what? That's all there is to it. 9 laps in a 50-lap race, guess what? You're almost 20% of the way through it. It seems like an eternity when you're on the racetrack, when you're out there making these circuits, but he's done a fantastic job so far for not being a road guy. And you know, one thing I've learned just from having some time on the iRacing service, having some time running go-karts at various places at racetracks to try to learn them, the more time you spend, the more you teach yourself, and the more people you're around, the more you learn from them if you're a student of the sport and a student of those who are better than you are. And I think Chad Lawton's a good enough driver, Joe, to where he's got enough sense to do that. He'll look at the fast guys, see what they're doing, try to mimic it, try to learn as much as you can. So he's not out there floundering like a fish out of water. He at least is in some sort of shallow water to where he can at least breathe.
Well, Chad Lawton, the one-time winner this season, also has a little bit more on his mind as well. Chad Lawton is currently sitting third in points, and he needs a respectable finish here tonight to continue that points run and be in a place to challenge the drivers. Looks like we got another driver that lost an engine out there. It looks like the 82 of Alex Warren. No, he did not. He's just going to drive straight through the bus stop. So Alex Warren just missed the bus stop entirely out there, and that is going to cost him big time.
And you know, half of that might have been too, he had Brandon Hawk looking at him for the position, and he might have just missed his marks, seeing the 53 beside him and maybe overshooting that a little bit. It's a tough break for Alex Warren, our winner at the New Hampshire Motor Speedway earlier this year, and he will lose a ton of time. He will no longer be a part of that battle that he was in a few moments ago, so he'll have to get up on the wheel. Ottinger is closing in once again on Ray Alfalla. That is your battle for position number 2. And the last couple of weeks, Tony, we've had issues with Ottinger falling back a little bit. It's about 20 points between himself and the next position in the standing. So Ottinger really has to get on his horse and get moving if he wants a shot at this championship.
He does, and the good news is once everything's done with drop races, he knows where he stands. Obviously, you want to be closer than you are right now. I mean, 1 point would be great, or 0 points, or ahead would be even better. So I think Ottinger and the Gale Force Racing bunch, they've got to get refocused just a little bit. I know some of their teammates have had other endeavors take their attention, things like physical race cars are getting more and more involved in, and that will take away a little bit of your focus from the sim car, Joe, and it's cool to see guys use the iRacing platform as a launch pad into physical cars, be it on the mechanical side or a spotting side or whatever the case might be. But, you know, I think also Nick Ottinger needs to prove it to himself that I can close the deal on one of these things. Last year he had a shot, just wasn't quite there. Finally started winning races last season, this season, and now he doesn't want to be the guy that falls out of the seat at the end of the year. So I think maybe he's got a little bit more to prove to himself as well.
Hey, speaking of drivers that made the jump from racing the real car, didn't you talk to one of those in Iowa?
Yeah, I've been talked to a few of them, actually. One of them, Josh Berry, of course, and he did a great job. I know his crew very, very impressed with what he was able to take from his previous experience to work into a physical car. Now, that's not saying he jumped from iRacing into a nationwide car, by no means. He had years and years in a Legends car and a late model stock car for Junior Motorsports. So he developed that, but of course one way to hone the skills was by spending time on iRacing to learn the tracks and different things like that, and I think he came up to speed pretty well. And speaking of which, Joe, a couple of weeks ago, it seems like it's been an eternity, but the Peak Stock Car Dream 2 was showed on Velocity as, whoa, hello, we've got problems. Mitchell Hunt looks like he's now, well, exited the race, it looks like, Joe.
We'll let you get back to the Peak Antifreeze dream in a moment, but let's go back to that replay a moment ago with Mitchell Hunt, the 19 machine, out of the race as a result of a flip. Normally we don't see these kind of flips at a road course, but the second one we've seen tonight, the first one belonging to Kenny Humpy. So Mitchell Hunt goes on his lid, he'll be the second driver to do so, and he will be the fourth driver officially out of the race.
Yeah, that'll happen when you plow into the barrels coming off of the pit entrance. He just got loose out of the final turn chasing the 89 car of Landon Harrison. So tough break, butter spilled, and he's done for the evening. So we'll have to see what he can do in the final 4 races of this season. Alfala has his hands completely full with Nick Ottinger, and this is 3 seconds behind your leader, Michael Conti.
Hard to believe we're already 3 seconds behind Michael Conti. They're coming up on the slower machine of Trey Eidson. He's now being shown 2 laps in arrears to the leader as Conti continues to stretch it out. But back to the point we were talking about a little bit ago, Joe. You look at Tyler Hudson, and also you look at Paul Kashiba, both drivers who were able to make it in through the Peak Antifreeze series here, the top-notch series that is NASCAR sanctioned on iRacing. And then you have the NASCAR Peak series, which is kind of like the NASCAR iRacing series, whatever you want to call it. But essentially it was an open competition, and both of those drivers, I think, did a fantastic job representing iRacing, representing themselves, the people they're involved with in their physical racing endeavors. I don't think either one of them expected to go into that and have the shot that they did and make it to where they did. I know for sure that Tyler didn't, and, you know, obviously we can all speculate on whatever, but I honestly believe that if those 2 drivers had more real-world physical experience, Joe, they would have maybe been a little bit better shot for that ride. I think it just simply comes down to NASCAR's approval process, and Christian Pehu, great kid, fine kid, has an account on iRacing and does some iRacing himself. He's been in limited late models for a long time, so I think that played into it a little bit to where it would be a big jump for NASCAR to say, oh, you've had a bazillion races on iRacing and 20 races in physical car. Sure, come jump in a K&N car. I don't think they're quite willing to make that gamble yet, and I don't blame them. I understand that. But I think just the fact that those drivers got to the point they did shows how good of a training tool iRacing really is.
Absolutely no argue that whatsoever. Battle the 69 and the 53.
The 11 of Brad Davies, I believe, is what Joe was trying to say, just made the move on Landon Harrison to move up to position number 21. Davies is one of those drivers that has former iRacing World Championship Grand Prix experience, and now he looks up on Brandon Hoff in car number 23, who runs in position number 20 right now. So Davies, albeit has a long way to go, he is 31 seconds behind your leader, Michael Conti, as we work lap number 15. And you mentioned the real-world experience, Tony. Paul Kashiba has a couple of seasons under his belt with a legend car and an SK mod at the Waterford Speed Bowl, so he does have some experience as well. Not his time at this point, but I'm sure that call is going to come. Real good kid is Paul Kashiba, as the 11 is on the 23, goes to the inside here and lets him have it. I think that was a little bit of an easier pass because Landon Harrison tried that about a lap ago, Tony. Couldn't get past at 23. The Davies, I believe, just made his way past.
Yeah, Davies able to go through with ease. Hoff pretty much just moved over and let him go out of the bus stop chicane into the carousel that is turn number 5 or turn 9, depending how you look at it here at Watkins Glen. And this battle for second is still with Andy, Joe. Ottinger up on the wheel. He's got that car all over the place. He's been from edge to edge and grass to grass, guardrail to guardrail, but just cannot get a run on Ray Alfala. And I almost think at this point that Ottinger is a little bit faster than Ray Alfala, but Alfala's got the track position. And when you're that evenly matched, it's very hard to pass sometimes.
Ottinger had the advantage going into turn number 1, going into that right-handed turn. Ottinger couldn't capitalize, and that allowed Alfala to get a little bit of a run. Ottinger then in the bus stop. Ottinger hit the rumble strips, lost a little bit of traction on the Rheem Toyota, and was not able to get as close to the 2. I think you're right. Ottinger may have the better car, but Ottinger may have to wait for the pit stop if him and Ray Alfala are on the same pit strategy. If that happens, if the pit strategy comes into play, I think Ottinger has that handily, but the question is, can the better car beat the better experience?
Yeah, we'll see what transpires here. It looks like Conti has slowed his pace just a little bit, gentlemen. It's now 3.1 seconds between himself and Ray Alfala. It looks like Alfala and Conti running pretty close to the same laps. Only 2/10 the difference between Conti and Alfala that last lap by. Nick Ottinger running in third, Sturgis and Busa completing your top 5. Your top 5 minus Alfala and Ottinger, they have a little bit of distance between them. So the 05 continuing to put the pressure on that number 2 car. Jake Sturgis, Chris Overland, Danny Hansen, Justin Bolton, and Adam Gilliland, your top 10. And Gilliland still hasn't been able to shake that number 39 of Michael J. Johnson, running back in 10th and 11th place, respectively. So I still think you got to keep a half eye on that one, Tony. They have a little bit of history, and I'm not sure how much patience Adam Gilliland has, because he's shown in the past that he doesn't have any. The 39's right on the back bumper of the 8.
Yeah, other than that battle for second, Tim, that's probably one of the closest battles on the speedway right now, as Johnson continues to chase down and try to find a way around Adam Gilliland. And those two are starting to reel in Justin Bolton slightly pretty quickly. That's going to become a 3-car fracas for that position to work their way a little deeper inside the top 10. And give a call to Bolton, a driver that's mostly got oval experience in his past as far as his physical racing exploits. Doing a good job here on the road course at Watkins Glen, as really a lot of these guys are. Again, first time for the NASCAR Antifreeze Series at Watkins Glen or any racetrack where they turn right. And relatively speaking, other than a couple of single-car screw-ups, it's been a pretty clean race, and so far it's been a pretty entertaining race, at least from second on back.
Let's go on the rear bumper now of the 53 of Brandon Hawkins. You can see the 26 of Chad Lawton right behind him, as Lawton continues to try to work his way through this field. Lawton has now found his way up to position number 16 and is slowly starting to reel in Hawk, and hopefully to try to get around Bennett and Byron Daly still in 13th. Bus stop's going to come into play though, so these guys are trying everything they can to make it work here as we continue to run down time. Currently scoring lap 18 of 50 in tonight's race.
And we're getting closer for those drivers that want to split this up into 2 segments. We're about 7 laps or so away from them trying to do that. Michael Conti out by 3.1 seconds. He'll come by this time and complete lap number 18 into 19, as a lot of these drivers are just completing that 18th lap right now. As we mentioned, there's a couple of close battles. We mentioned that battle between Peter Bennett and Brandon Hawk and Chad Lawton. Looking back through the field, Brandon Hoff still has Landon Harrison along with him for the ride. Brad Davies has pulled away from this battle, but this is 21st with Brandon Hoff. Brian Blackford, who just made the spot, as did the 13, I believe it is, Brad Mahar, as they continue to weave and bob their way through that. So Blackford in the 33 has a little bit of damage from earlier when he got into Rob Ackley. He's gonna. It doesn't look like it's affecting him right now, Tony. Albeit maybe the temperatures might be a little bit different in that race car compared to some others.
Well, the good news is here at Watkins Glen, the aerodynamics, yeah, they matter. I mean, you're pulling what, 170 some miles an hour at the end of the back straightaway, close to a $180. So yeah, aerodynamics will matter. But the good news is, most of this racetrack, where it really is, you make up or lose time, is through the corners. And because of the nature of the track, a driver can make up for some of that, some of the deficiency he's got as far as aero goes. So not the worst place to have the nose torn off the thing in the case of Brian Blackford. Not the best place either, but it's enough of a racetrack, I think, Joe, that he can at least carry the car somewhat and make up for some of that, as you see him already bobbling getting into turn number 6. So we know Brian Blackford's on the edge of control right now, trying to move that car forward, but doing a pretty good job of it so far. As never mind, here he comes to pit road. Brian Blackford's going to make the short pit as he feels he can go the rest of the way. The next 31 laps, Joe, that's a pretty long distance, but Blackford is coming in, and I guess the window is now open for pit stops.
It's an interesting gamble, as Brian Blackford will be the first one to break the seal. He will get at least 2 brand new Goodyear Eagle tires, 2 tanks of virtual Sunoco racing fuel, 4 tires stop for Brian Blackford. No nose damage repaired. He will be down and away as Brian Blackford makes the first pit stop of the evening. Who will be next? That's the $64,000 question.
Conti stays on the racetrack to complete lap number 20. Ray Alfalla, Nick Ottinger close behind him, and by close, it's about 3.5 seconds between your top 2 drivers. PJ Sturgis, Matt Busa, top 5, as we continue to work around this racetrack, and there's not many that have decided to peel off, at least at this point. So Blackford might be the first, and he might be the first by a little distance here, Tony, as maybe some of these back guys might peel off. Trey was already pitted because of some damage earlier in the race, so other than that, these guys might be coming in a little bit later, might see them within the next 5 laps or so coming down into pit road, maybe split this up into halfway. But nevertheless, Michael Conti is your leader, and Brian Blackford's about to go a lap down.
Yeah, I don't see a lot of guys, like you said, Tim, coming in at this juncture. Some of them will, probably towards the back, or somebody that maybe wants to have a lighter load at the end, but you'll have more time on the tires. So there's a lot of trade-offs, a lot of compromises you have to make whenever you consider this pit strategy. And I think Brian Blackford decided that his trade-off was going to be grip and speed and clean racetrack to try to make up as much time as he can once everything cycles around. And you know, it looks like almost looks like he's pulling away, or at least holding serve right now for Brian Blackford. But now another leader on pit road. It looks like Nick Ottinger, first of the leaders, going to come down pit road, Joe, and that green Camry bunch is going to go to work on his car.
The short pit strategy comes in for the Ottinger, and look for him. 4 tires, full tank of fuel, and the 05 overshoots his pit stall. Nope, he's going to be right on the line. It will be the left sides going up on the 05. Will it be the right sides as well? Yes, it will be. Full tank of Sunoco fuel, 2 tanks in, 4 tires on, the 05 down and away. Clean stop for Ottinger.
39 of Michael J. Johnson will relinquish position number 11 to come on to pit road. It'll be a 4-tire stop for car number 39. Conti continues to lead this event, and we'll see if he decides to come on to pit road this time by on the 22nd lap of this 50-lap event. Conti in the main performance BC Sim pedals. Number 5 rounds the final corner of this racetrack, and he will come in this time by. Here comes your leader, Mike Conti, down onto pit road, and he looks pretty clean so far. Got it down to pit speed, and now it's just a matter of his team hitting his marks.
And it's a very, very long road down to the turn 1 end of pit lane. 45 miles an hour for Michael Conti. He'll finally turn into the pit box. Crew will jump over the wall now as he's a stall away. He'll get it stopped on the marks. Around to the left side, driver's side first. That side is up in the air. Brand new Goodyear Eagles being bolted on that side. 5 off and 5 on. Screw back around to the right side, filling that tank full of Sunoco Racing gasoline to go to the end. They drop the jack. Mike Conti is down and away. Now the question is, where will he cycle out in relation to Nick Ottinger? Here comes Ottinger now off turn number 1. The gap will be, well, probably about the same. Great job getting on and off pit road by Michael Conti. What a hustle for that matter. I think he even gained some time on the 05 machine of Nick Ottinger, Joe.
Entirely possible, but it makes it hard now as the 5, well, Mike Conti, he came in with a premonition tonight. He said he was going to lead every lap. Well, officially, that will no longer happen as Ray Alfalla has taken away the lead. Alfalla once again is going, no, he's not. Ray Alfalla will make the cut down pit road, and now the 2 will be the next one of your leaders to come down to the attention of his crew. The 57 will come in as well, it sounds like. Yep, PJ Sturgis coming down pit road as well. Alfalla has a longer drive, though. PJ Sturgis, as I believe, what, four boxes behind him, plus or minus, as here comes the 2 into the second pit box.
32 is the first driver to stay out on this exchange. So Danny Hansen, if he does stay out for one more lap, will inherit the lead position. The 2, the 34, the 57, they're all down on pit road. Getting service. The 2 is down and away. Quick pit stop for Ray Alfalla, and he will rejoin the fray. We'll see where Conti is right now. Conti is already past him, so it looks like Conti did gain a whole lot of time on that pit stop. And Alfalla behind Nick Ottinger as well, so that's not going to help Alfalla's strategy either. But Danny Hansen is your leader, is right now ahead of the leaders. It depends if he does come down pit road or not to try to get that bonus point for leading a lap. Adam Gilliland is behind him, and he would be second when this thing does cycle through, and then it's back to Conti and Ottinger, I do believe.
Yeah, that looks like it's about how it's going to cycle out right now. And if I'm Danny Hansen, I don't know. I think I've got this thing about split where it needs to be, but it wouldn't surprise me, guys, to see Danny Hansen. We've seen it in the past. Take a little different pit strategy than anybody else to try to benefit himself, as he still stays on the racetrack. So I'm wondering if either he's going to try to make it a little past halfway, which maybe would be next lap, or maybe, Joe, if he would decide to try to go as long as he can, say 30 or 33 laps or so, and then make it a 17, 19 lap dash to the end, and try to have a little bit fresher tires and a little bit lighter fuel load.
It's not out of the question. He may be able to do that, and in some way, shape, or form, maybe be able to either retain the leader or be in the top 5 when all is said and done. It's going to make for some very interesting racing as we continue. The 8 of Adam Gillen now on pit road. The Gary Burke Trucking Chevrolet, 4 tires, full tank of fuel. He will be down and away, back on the racing surface. Nobody else making it out. Check out the 26 machine. Also on pit road. I'm sorry, not the 26. I want to say the 23 down on pit road as well. Now here comes the 11 of Brad Davies to the attention of his crew.
I like the 32 strategy just because of getting that one bonus point, because where he was battling with some of those cars, you look at Adam Gilliland, you look at the Brad Mayhar machine as well. That's the drivers that he is close to in the point standings, or just ahead of in the point standings. We expect 32 onto pit road this time by, and here he comes. The Pro Geek Consulting number 32 going to hit pit road this time by with that one bonus point for leading a lap. And it's 10th in points. He won his first race this season in this series, Tony. You got to expect that Danny has some big expectations after taking that win earlier, and 4 races to go. He's expecting a top 10 in points and a little bit more, as Conti will have now 4 seconds on Nick Ottinger.
Yeah, huge gap back to Ottinger as the Hansen team continues to service his number 32 Ford. As looks like they'll get everything finished on the right side. Pitted a little close to the wall there. This is Mark, but they'll finally get everything finished. And 4 brand new Goodyear Virtual Racing Eagles on that car. He'll be down and back onto the racetrack. The problem is, where will he exactly blend back in? Looks like about 12th spot or so, right behind Justin Bolton and just in front of Adam Gilliland. So Danny Hansen going to be about 25 laps and 25 laps on his pit strategy, splitting it right down the middle, Joe.
Everyone's about cycled through as we watch the 32 machine of Danny Hansen get back into traffic. Right now, your leader is being scored once again as Michael Conti with 4 seconds over Nick Ottinger this time by. Nick Ottinger's got about a second and a half on Ray Alfala. Danny Hansen is going to cycle back through. Where was the $64,000 question? But I'm sure we will find out as we continue to run through. Michael Conti, though, so far pit strategy playing off for him. Can it play off at the rest of the race?
I was just talking to the crew chief of driver number 5, Michael Conti. Of course, that's Brandon Hastings, the crew chief, and he said that Conti's been fairly quiet on the radio, guys. Hasn't really said a whole lot as he tries to lap Brandon Chaburko through the S's and heading down towards the bus stop. He will do so. Very close quarters there through the S's between the 5 and the 48, but he said he hasn't said a whole lot on the radio, and he said that with that strategy, he was trying to wait a little bit to see what that 2 in the 05 would do. He really didn't want to be the first driver to come down pit road, but he did say this was the final stop, or the only stop of the race, because you can go anywhere between 28 and 30 laps on the fuel in these race cars. So Conti out by about 4 seconds now, and that's pretty much what it's going to be. We have the 32 car of Danny Hansen battling for position with the 36 of Justin Bolton. That is for position number 9.
That's a pretty good fracas back there, 30 seconds off the lead with Bolton, Hansen, Adam Gilliland all right there as they work through the carousel, top of the hill, and now they'll work their way down the NASCAR chute just between turn, well, I forget what turn that is in the boo, but nonetheless, that's kind of referred to as the NASCAR chute, one of the very few series that use it here at Watkins Glen, and this is shaping up to be a good battle. Now, remember, Hansen's got a little bit fresher tires than Justin Bolton does, same with Adam Gilliland. Gilliland hit a lap before Danny Hansen, so Bolton, I think, right now is in the matter of, well, not survival, but he's trying to hold on to the tires and brakes deteriorate from the guys behind him. Well, that's not going to happen just yet, because here goes Hansen to the inside, but look at Bolton up top, able to carry that momentum, Joe.
Battle for position number 21 to be in the box, I'm told, around the 82 of Alex Warren, as Alex Warren will get past the 13 of Brad Mayar. Landon Harrison still in the mix right now as they enter turn number 1. Meanwhile, the 32 of Danny Hansen finally sets up his pass. At the bus stop, Hansen gets around Justin Bolton. Through the bus stop, Hansen holds on to the move, and Danny Hansen will pick up position number 9, Justin Bolton 10th, Adam Gilliland in 11th, Ryan Day now in 12th.
So it puts those two teammates in 10th and 11th place, Justin Bolton and Adam Gilliland. And Tony, you mentioned the pit strategy. When we did go to pit road, Michael J. Johnson and Adam Gilliland were running nose to tail thereabouts, and Gilliland just ahead of Michael J. Johnson. There is now 4 seconds between those two drivers, so whether it was Gilliland faulting on his stop or Michael J. Johnson having a real good stop and then putting the hammer down, I don't know, but Michael J. Johnson has a little bit of gap between himself and Adam Gilliland for the position. That's what the pit stop will do. The 16 of Thomas Lewandowski had a moment, and I believe Brad Davies got by him, and that will put Thomas Lewandowski back to 20th.
Yeah, a lot of guys trying to shake these cars out right now and figure out what they've got. And sometimes, in some cases, you're running with different guys, Tim. I mean, you talked about Adam Gilliland and Michael J. Johnson, how they came in nose to tail, or at least when pit stop started, they were nose to tail, and now they are such no longer. So some of these drivers racing with others that maybe they're not used to seeing their braking points or little bitty things, because over the course of a run, remember the tires depreciate or degrade, I should say, not depreciate. Well, I guess they're losing value too, so they depreciate. But they degrade, the fuel tank, the fuel load burns off. So you change your line, you change your braking points just a little bit, and over the course of 25 or 30 laps, you put stickers and a brand new tank of fuel in there. Sometimes that extra 2 feet you drove into the corner before doesn't work. You make a bobble, and you're trying to figure all that stuff out all over again, Joe. And I think we've seen that a couple of times as you ride on board with Brandon Hawk, that Racer Boost machine, trying to get around the Intelligence-driven steering wheels car of Byron Daly in turn number 1.
I was about to say, technically speaking, Tony, the minute you put the tires in the car, they technically depreciate value. I mean, if you want to get granular about it.
It's kind of like a used car lot. Once you roll them out of the hauler, they've already been lost in value.
Except you can't sell them back at a decent profit.
And like I said, they lost value.
The 54 of Brandon Bowie was on pit road. The Gale Force driver looking to take his stop a little bit late, but he's one of those drivers who's going to try that late pit strategy out here we were talking about, Tony. He's going to take the tires, he's going to take the tires, he's going to take the fuel late in the run and see if that will help him. See if the lighter load and the brand new tires can equate to long-term speed.
No tires in the 54 of Brandon Bowie. That was fuel only for the 54 of Bowie, and he is down and away. 30 laps. Complete 30 laps on the stint, and that's about as far as you can go. So we'll see what it does for Bowie and the Gale Force car, where it does slot him at the end of the race. And I believe he may, and obviously, Tony, I didn't see all the pit stops, but he may be one of the only ones that didn't take any tires in that stop.
I don't know why you would not take tires in the stop. I really don't. That, as much as you slide around here, as much as you use up the rubber, especially as far back in the running order as he was, and as long as it takes to put fuel in a car, it makes no logical sense to me not to put tires in the race car. And if that's the case, and not a top-off stop, that just is mind-blowing.
Definitely a strange maneuver. Definitely something that I don't know that I would condone. But maybe there's some more when we realize
I believe what Joe was trying to say is Nick Ottinger has a 3.7 second lead over Mike Conti right now, and Brandon Bowie just went one lap down on that exchange of pit stops, and he's behind his teammate right now, Nick Ottinger. It's about 3 seconds back to Ray Alfalla from Nick Ottinger, PJ Sturgis, and Matt Busa complete your top 5. And Tony, coming in, we kind of figured those 5 would be the 5 to beat, and at this point they are.
Yeah, they are the 5 to beat. I am slightly shocked, however, the gap from 3rd to 4th between Alfalla and Sturgis. 7 seconds is a pretty substantial piece of real estate. It's a couple seconds from Conti to Ottinger, then from Ottinger to Alfalla after stops, and so on through the field, but that's a pretty large gap from 3rd back to 4th after all's been said and done. So certainly now those top 3 have been elevated a little bit higher than maybe what we considered them, and Sturgis is starting to feel a little bit of heat as well. Matt Busa has reeled him in, or is reeling him in. He's got a slower machine. The lap car, Brandon Chaburko, he overlapped a little bit ago, but Busa's closing in, and on top of that, Chris Overland also closing in with Jake Sturgis back there too. So things are starting to heat up just a little bit for that 4th spot. Probably will be a battle in the next 10-15 laps.
So Michael Conti well ahead of the field by Nick Ottinger second, 3.7 seconds behind, Ray Alfalla third. And guys, this is really turning into a race for whatever's left out there. I mean, Ottinger's starting to pick up time, but with time running out, can he really make up all that time? Trey Eidson, who was damaged early in the race, now on pit road. He's still several laps down, so he's he's irrelevant in a certain way, shape, or form as everyone continues to run out here without incident. For a race with no yellow flags, this race is going incredibly smooth.
And looking back here for battles for position, there's really none within the top 10 to speak of. I believe the closest battle on this racetrack is 14th and 15th, at least near the front of the field, which would be the Brandon Hawk and Chad Lawton machines at 14 and 15, as Lawton tries to chase down driver number 53. Looking back onto the field, Brian Blackford is being chased down by Brad Davies. That might be a little bit closer than the other battle I just talked about, though, as Davies trying to set up Blackford, maybe going into the bus stop here. Davies is trying to pick up for lost time, or make up for lost time. He's on the back bumper of the 33, and he almost gets into him going into the bus stop. The road race experience, I believe, Tony, coming into play here for Brad Davies.
I think it is. I mean, Brad has been so smooth. He's probably passed more cars, I think, than anybody in the field after starting back in, what was it, like 34th or so. So he's certainly made his way forward, but what that makes me wonder is, A, why did he not take a qual time, or B, did he maybe try to get a little too much and ran off course where the lap didn't count? Either way, Davies had to start from the back and been pretty impressive. He's not going to reel in Mike Conti. There's no questioning about that right now, but overall, pretty impressive drive by Brad Davies, I think, Joe. Give him the attaboy award for tonight. Passing as many cars as he has, and he's still rolling his way forward. He might catch Peter Bennett and Chad Lawton before it's over with, and I think if Davies gets to the top 15, that's an exceptional job well done tonight.
Absolutely, definitely give him a lot of credit out there. And, you know, he's one of those drivers, he may not win every race, but Brad Daly is absolutely reliable no matter what track you put him on. He just gangs out and he makes it work, and you hear his name at least a couple times before the night is said and done. Brandon Bowie gets around, gets picking up one position. That time around, gets around the 22 of Rob Ackley to score Brandon Bowie, the 54, in position number 27. As this race is starting to get more and more scattered out here, I think these guys are just settling it in to mail it home at this point. What do you think, Tony, Tim?
Yeah, I think you're right, Joe. When you look at this right now, there's a lot of drivers that are just trying to ride this out to the end of the race, because you're going to have about 15 to 15 and a half laps, depending where you're running around this racetrack, to pretty much sail this thing on home. You do have a couple of close battles on the racetrack, guys picking up some positions near the end of this race, turning up the wick a little bit, and trying to pick up those extra points to possibly not make this your drop race. But at this point, for the most part, there's guys just trying to get to the end of this event and call it a night, move on to 2 weeks, and then get on to Atlanta. The lead is now 3.5 seconds between your top two. It was 0.3 of a second that Ottinger dug in last time by.
Yeah, Ottinger seems to have dug in for the last few laps. He doesn't gain a lot of the time, but he gains a little bit. But it seems like every time that Mike Conti gets in traffic, that is when Ottinger is able to close in on him just a little bit. And I think Conti does that, Tim, because he's got a little bit of a buffer. He knows he's got time. He knows there are no cautions. Just take his time and very methodically, very intentionally work his way by traffic, because he knows one false move, Joe, could really put this race to the end for him. And as good of a car as he's had, he doesn't want that to happen. So I think Conti, I don't want to say he's playing with Nick Ottinger right now, but I don't think he's showing everything he's got. And Ottinger, meanwhile, I think is exhausting everything that's in that Ream Camry.
I think he absolutely is. I'm going to wholeheartedly agree with that statement, because he's really only got 14 laps left to catch Michael Conti, to try to catch him and try to catch up to him and challenge for this lead. 14 laps plus or minus around this very long Watkins Glen track. When you consider each of those laps take about a minute and some change, you're talking about 20 minutes left for the 05 of Ottinger to catch Conti and challenge for the lead. Ray Alfala in an even worse position. Ottinger's picking up time. Alfala's starting to lose it.
Alfala right now, though, has about 8 seconds between himself and PJ Sturgis, and they're running about the same lap times, are the two in the 57. So Alfala's pretty safe right now, as you're seeing the 39 make a move on the 77. That is a lapped car of Andrew Fayash III. So Fayash will fall behind the 39 there. There he goes, and that'll be back behind there. The 5 of Conti is losing about 1/10 a lap, Tony, and with 14 laps to go and 2.9 seconds between the two, Ottinger needs to pick it up and pick it up a little bit more. Oh, and by the way, if he wants to win the race, he has to get by Mike Conti. So easier said than done. Ottinger needs to turn up the wick just a little bit more in these last 13 laps.
And he has picked up the wick, I think, Tim, but again, like you said, 3 seconds and at 1/10 of a second a lap, it's not doable. There's 13 laps to go this time. That means basically you got to pick up 1/4 of a second a lap. And the way things have gone, unless traffic completely gives Mike Conti a huge headache, I don't envision that happening. Last time by, the difference, 2/1000ths of a second. That's how equally matched they are. And again, Joe, Mike Conti's out there able to save his stuff, and Nick Ottinger's trying to just wear it out and use it up. I don't see things, barring a mistake, I do not see anything happening between Mike Conti and Nick Ottinger.
Interesting, very interesting fact, if this were to all play out, Michael Conti would be the only 3-time winner in this year's NASCAR Peak Antifreeze Series powered by iRacing races. This would be the only 3-time winner, and I believe one of only 2 multi-time winners in the series. And this would give him a huge boost going into the mini chase over the next 4 weeks. Now you see him passing the number 37 machine, 37 belonging to Stephen Gilbert out there. If Michael Conti is able to pick this one up, pick off his 3rd win of the season, you could be looking at the makings of championship material.
But he's still got to last those last 4 races. He's got to last Atlanta. He's got to go through Richmond, Darlington, and Homestead, 4 unique racetracks to each other, and of course unique from Watkins Glen International. Last time by, Conti was a 1:14.303 to Ottinger's 1:13.814. It was about a half second between those two, with Ottinger picking that up that time. If he can do that every lap, yeah, he'll be there, but a little bit of traffic there as well. It's we'll see what happens, Tony. Keep a half eye on Ottinger as he tries to continue to dig towards Mike Conti at the end of this one. Nobody else is in the close frame between them.
No, it really isn't. Now, Ottinger, not to build any false hype here, but he did close in half a second the last lap. Of course, to be fair, Conti had to deal with the traffic of Stephen Gilbert, so that, again, probably is something that Ottinger is going to have to deal with. But there are more cars ahead, including Brandon Hoff, Cody Bias. They might get to Brandon Schmidt and Brad Mayhar before it's all said and done. So lap traffic could play a role in this. I don't see it happening. But, whoa, hello, Bias just spun right in front of the leaders. And that almost played a huge role in what the outcome of this was going to be. As across the stripe now, that gap back up to 3 seconds as Ottinger tried to get by the 37 to Gilbert, get by Bias and company. And I think that pretty much has put the nail in the coffin for Nick Ottinger.
Let's go back, if we can, to that replay of Cody Bias. He lost it coming off of the final turn here in Watkins Glen. You're watching it in the box. Lost on that final turn, went nose first into the trash cans there, and Cody Bias loses his nose, loses his hood. Cody Bias effectively now driving a modified out there, and Cody Bias, his night is pretty much done as well. But I think you're absolutely right there, Tony. That's going to end the night. It's effectively going to end the race, and now Michael Conti holds his fate in his own hands.
When you look at it, it looks like Brandon Hoff made it a little bit easy for Conti to get by. Nick Ottinger, whatever he gained 2 laps ago, Tony, you mentioned it, Conti gained it back the last lap by. This time, 10 laps to go on the 5 of Mike Conti, and we'll see if there was any difference. Obviously, he did have to deal with that lap traffic of Brandon Hoff. We'll see what that affects on the stopwatch. And this time by, it appears that it was 0.4 of a second or thereabouts between Conti and Ottinger, with Ottinger gaining about 0.4 of a second or 3 and change on Conti. Yes, if he can do that every lap, he'll be there, but he needs to do it every lap and not give it back, as the traffic will come into play here in just a few moments' time. We'll see where Ottinger does catch Brandon Hoff.
Yeah, and that Viper SR car of Brandon Hoff is probably going to set Ottinger back maybe another 0.4 of a second. So again, whatever he gained, he's going to lose. Whatever Conti loses, Ottinger will gain, and then it'll be fight back and forth. So right now it's, whoa, Ottinger. Hello, he just about cashed it in off the inner loop. But he is wearing that car out, just like we talked about, Joe, using every little bit of everything inside that machine. And, well, I don't think it's going to be enough right now.
I agree. I think Ottinger has burned it down too soon out there. I think Ottinger did everything he can to try to get the 05 Toyota to work to his advantage, but it's not going to work tonight. He just doesn't have enough in the ream machine. But that being said, second place isn't bad.
But it's not first place, and with Conti leading this race, leading the most laps in this race, and gaining maximum points, that's, yeah, there's a lot that they're standing to lose, the competition standing to lose per se, because Conti 2 points back of Ray Alfala coming in. When you factor in that drop, yes, it's probably going to change a little bit, Tony, but it's still going to be Conti and Alfala pulling away a little bit from Nick Ottinger, and effectively Chad Lawton as well, because where's Chad Lawton running in this race? He's running back in 15th place right now as Ottinger gets past the 23 and nearly gets into the inner loop a little too hot. Looks like he regained it again, but that could have been huge.
That could have been very large, and visually that gap is shrinking again, but I think we're running out of laps, running out of time. Brad Mayhar is next to go a lap down, Brandon Schmidt. Don't see that's going to be a major issue, but you talk about points, Tim, and yeah, this is going to set things up for the mini chase, if you will, where the drops no longer count, they're no longer available. And those final 4 races, I don't think you could ask for a whole lot. Whoa! Hello, Michael Conti just slipped off turn number 7. That never happens. Holy cow. Well, we might have ourselves a race after all. It's down to 2 1/4 seconds, guys.
Remember what I just said a moment ago? Michael Conti holds his fate in his hands. Well, that's exactly why I said it. Conti does hold his fate in his hands. With 2.2 seconds out there, he can win this race. And this would put him in a very unique position. It would give him 3 poles, 3 wins, and make him the only multi-time winner in this year. Everyone's only won 1 race. Conti will have won 3 if he can hold on. That's going to be the question. Conti needs to concentrate for the next 8 laps. 7.5 now.
05 on the 13, and Brad just moved over for the 05. And Tony, this is where it's going to come down to it. Conti's catching the traffic. He caught the 13, let's call a spade, in the wrong place, and he lost a little bit of time and nearly lost control of his race car. And Ottinger made it look easy on the 13. Conti's going to come up on another piece of lap traffic here, and Brandon Schmidt in the 3, and we'll see how hard of a time Schmidt does give Michael Conti this time by. He completes lap number 43, so we have 7 laps to go in this event, and Conti lost another 0.2 of a second. The fate is in Conti's hands, yes, but it's also in the fate of the lap traffic and how hard and where they do catch the lap traffic compared to Nick Ottinger, because Ottinger seems like he's had a little bit of an easier time, and also he's wheeling the hell out of that car.
Oh, he's driving that car again, as you said countless times, for all it is worth. I mean, if that's a Rheem hot water heater right now, it's out of hot water, and he's still somehow able to get a boil out of it. I don't know how, as the leaders work into the inner loop, or the leader, I should say, and again, Conti catching Schmidt in the inner loop, and this time Schmidt gonna drive way on the outside of the carousel. That's another chance that Conti's had to have something happen. Got a good break there, but how much time did he lose trying to chase Schmidt into the inner loop? That's the question. And again, where will Ottinger now catch the 3 machine? And by the same token, Ottinger can't hold on forever, because we're pretty soon gonna A, run out of laps, and B, run out of lap traffic, Joe.
Both will happen. 6 to go at the line. Nick Ottinger starting to slowly reel him in. Last time around, it was 2 seconds between Ottinger and Conti. This time around, it's going to be 1.9 seconds. Conti, he can hold on, he can win, but he's got to make sure he doesn't make another mistake. Otherwise, Ottinger's continuing to drive it like he stole that machine. He might boil over. We'll have to find out what happens in the next 7 laps. Schmidt between Ottinger and Conti. Conti now, he's back on the wheel. I think the gravity for the situation is finally sunk in for the driver of that 5 machine.
And with Ottinger, he needs about 0.4 of a second, not hundredths, 0.4 of a second each lap, and then he's got to get past Mike Conti. And that's on average 0.4 of a second thereabouts. So Ottinger still needs to get up on the wheel and still needs to get up and make a pass on Conti. The 39 and the 32 are battling for position number 8. You see them side by side going through this racetrack with Danny Hansen taking the spot there. Ottinger comes up on the 3, and he will move over for Ottinger, so that makes it a little bit easier. Conti, the next traffic for Conti is Landon Harrison coming out of the final turn right now, and that will be position number 21. He will put 1 lap down. You see the feet on Landon Harrison and the number 89, and this time by Conti sees 5 laps to go, and he sees 0.2 added to his advantage on Nick Ottinger.
Not what Nick Ottinger wanted to see, and again, I think the grip is gone. He is to the point of just trying to minimize the gap in case something happens, but in the back of your mind, Joe, I think you know if you're Nick Ottinger, Mike Conti has not made a mistake thus far. He's probably not going to make one in the last 3.5 laps of this one, or 4 laps, whatever it is. It could happen. The likelihood is not there, but you see crazier things here, Watkins Glen.
Is it plausible? Yes. Is it probable? No. Let's put it that way. Ottinger, valiant effort from the 05, valiant effort from everyone involved in that Rheem team, but Michael Conti just too strong tonight. He came in boasting he would lead every lap of this race. He didn't lead every lap of this race, but he came pretty darn close to doing just that. 53.93, you're watching it in the box. They are now side by side. they're looking to do a little bit of business out there, and Byron Daly not going to let him happen. He'll hold on to 13th. Brandon Hawk forced a drop back to 14th.
So he moves back one more spot, and we'll see if that battle will subside or change hands once again before the end of this race. As they have 5 laps to go, you ride on board with Michael Conti looking up at driver number 89 of Landon Harrison. Closing laps of this race, 2.2 seconds between your top 2, with Conti adding 2 more tenths that time by on his advantage. So, Tony, it looks like at this point Ottinger's hoping for some lap traffic to play into effect. He's hoping probably Conti makes his car, Harrison makes his car really, really wide, so Conti can't get by and maybe gains a little bit of time.
Yeah, it's all about now you're at the mercy of the laps traffic. As you see some of those cars that are in danger of going a lap down. Back there around Alex Warren, Thomas Lewandowski company, they're all battling. That's happening just in front of the leader by just a couple of seconds. That's going to slow everybody up. Now, if that keeps happening, Tim and Joe, that could pose a little bit of a problem now for Mike Conti. That traffic that was not very heavy a few laps ago, he's got 4 rolling chicanes in front of him that he's got to negotiate through and around. And this might be the opportunity Nick Ottinger needs. It is a needle in a haystack's worth of a chance, but he's got a chance.
It's rolling the dice effectively. We're not in Las Vegas, but these guys are going to play dice anyways. In fact, if you just go over the border, it's legal on the other side of the Canadian border, but now we're just splitting hairs. Michael Conti has an opportunity, may have an opportunity to open the door. Nick Ottinger might have an opportunity if he doesn't burn out what he's got left. Through the S, he did a little dirt tracking, sliding the 05. Now at the bus stop, the 05 hits the rumble strips, hits them perfectly, almost overdrove it though, as he continues to roll through. Ottinger, he knows he's got to do everything perfect from here on out if he wants to have a chance. The 89-5 almost make contact. That could have been a mistake that ended the 5-9.
I don't think there's anything in between those two drivers, but Landon Harrison nearly cost Michael Conti the win, and I don't think it was anything on his part that he wanted to prevent that, Tony, because Landon's one of the nicest guys you're going to meet in this NASCAR Peak Antifreeze Series garage area. Doesn't really want to affect into that battle for the lead, but this time by, it's a half-second gained on Nick Ottinger, and it might be actually a little bit more than that, almost a second gain between Conti and Ottinger. It's 1.5 seconds now between your top 2 with 2 to go.
Things are getting tight, and I think Conti is going to catch the 3 in front of him. Thomas Lewandowski, Brian Blackford, Alex Warren, all right in front of the leader, and after that little scare, Conti's got to be shaken and be a little bit nervous. I've seen him slip on exit just a little bit. Nothing to really be concerned about, but that car has been a handful. Lewandowski loses it in front of Conti. Well, that's one way to get by him without any sort of problem, is to have him slide off into the grass. But you know the heart was in the throat of Mike Conti there for just a moment, Joe.
Heavy front end damage of the 16 of Lewandowski. His night, for all intents and purposes, over. And the 16 just looks like got scared by it with a 5 in his rearview mirror, overdrove it, ended up into the dirt, into the tire wall, and Lewandowski just drives it hard out there. Stephen Gilbert still having some troubles out there as well. The 05's got 2 lap cars now in front of him. Here are the dangerous moments as we try to do this one more time.
Final lap of racing. Brian Blackford, the only lap car that stands between Mike Conti and a little bit of clean air, and he will do it. Now the 89 and 33 may be going at it, and keep in mind, Tony, that is for a position.
All 3 of those drivers actually battling for position. Harrison, Blackford, and Alex Warren. Warren slid off while he was battling with Blackford over in turn number 6, and these guys might pose an issue, not so much for Conti now, as he has checked out and set sail, but for Nick Ottinger, who's trying to stick his nose in the battle that probably doesn't belong in, but he's got no other choice at this point. Through the bus stop for the final time, this ticket is punched. One last trip home for Mike Conti as he works through the carousel, Joe.
Working through the carousel, Conti has free reign at this point. Passes the boot into the NASCAR stretch. Passes the exit of the boot. 3 more turns. That's all it will take for Conti to walk away with the win number 3 and a boost going into the chase. 1 more turn. Conti's got it.
Michael Conti comes up out of the final corner, and he will be the first winner of the NASCAR Peak Antifreeze Series at a road course. He wins round 13 at Watkins Glen International. Nick Ottinger going to come home in position number 2. Closed in at the end, could not get there. Ray Alfala in third, little ways back to PJ Sturgis, and Matt Busa completes your top 5 right there. And that's kind of how we thought about it, gentlemen. The top 5 coming in through warm-up, the grid, and the race. The only difference really was PJ Sturgis got ahead of Matt Busa.
Yeah, not a whole lot of change up front. Back through the field, there was a lot of shuffling, but that was back with the guys that weren't quite so happy with their race cars, Tim, and maybe as a driver weren't quite as dialed in here at Watkins Glen International. When you come to a road course, it's as much about the machine as it is the driver, and you've really got to be on your P's and Q's. Hit your marks every single time. Know what you want. Know how to conserve your equipment. Mike Conti, flawless here tonight, no question, Joe.
Conti came in saying he was going to make this his race. He earned this one. And now Conti's got all the momentum going into the mini chase, as we've been calling it. Yes, it will be a challenge for Michael Conti, but considering he's got 3 wins this season, he is definitely going to be the odds-on favorite to take away the championship. And you want to point it back to one opportunity, to one evening, to one event that solidified that, you can point it back right to this race here at Watkins Glen.
We are going to step away for just a few moments' time. We'll set up your post-race show, talk to your top 5 finishers at the end of round number 13. Don't go away, race fans. NASCAR Peak Antifreeze Series powered by iRacing. Round number 13 post-race coming up next.
Inside Peak Antifreeze, 65 years of experience in hot and cold protection. From an independent, family-owned business that's never been afraid to give you exactly what's right for your engine and your wallet. Peak. Run true. What's inside Peak Antifreeze? 65 years of experience in hot and cold protection. From an independent, family-owned business that's never been afraid to give you exactly what's right for your engine and your wallet. Peak. Run true.
Race fans, it's time for those most famous words in motorsports. Drivers, start your engines!
outside, checking up, go low, come on low, come on low, come on low, come on low, low.
Michael Conti comes up at a corner number 4 in the checkered flag. He wins his first NASCAR iRacing. Welcome back to round number 13 of the NASCAR Peak Antifreeze Series, powered by iRacing at Watkins Glen International. Your winner this evening is Mike Conti, leading 47 of the 50 laps and coming away with the win by 1.7 seconds. Over Nick Ottinger, Ray Alfalla finished in third, coming off the win at Indy. PJ Sturgis, Matt Busa, top 5 class in the field by far this evening and throughout the qualification and all the warm-up sessions that were had at Watkins Glen this evening. Jake Sturgis in 6th, Chris Overland 7th, Danny Hansen 8th, Michael J. Johnson in 9th, and Adam Gilliland rallies to come back and finish in position number 10, the exact position that he started this 50-lap event in. Gonna go down to Joe Cortez in victory lane with your winner, the first 3-time winner this season, Mike Conti.
You know, guys, when Mike Conti started this season, he said he was only going to run a part-time schedule. He said he was only going to run it as long as it was still fun. 3 pole positions, 3 wins later, the points lead later. It looks like Michael Conti's still having a great time out there in the 05 machine, winning the first road race ever, the NASCAR Peak Antifreeze Series, powered by iRacing.com. Michael, has winning not gotten fun yet?
Oh, it's still very much fun, Joe. I had a great time tonight. It was great to finally get this series to a road course. I've been asking for this for a couple of years, and many of the drivers have been really pressing Shannon and everybody else that run the series to let us have at least one road course. They brought us to Watkins Glen, which is a great track, and put on a great race, I think. Just out front, I mean, it was tough. I mean, I don't know how it looked on the broadcast, but I mean, everybody was working extremely hard. The weather conditions and the way the cars and everything, it was just very difficult and greasy out there. But number 5, Sim Peddle's bus was pretty darn good tonight. Had a great qualifying run, which really made it easy from there on. I didn't really have to pass anybody the whole night except for lap traffic, which got pretty heavy at the end. But Nick was closing, and the car really wasn't handling very well at the end, but luckily it was a 50-lap race and not a 60-lap race, because I think Nick would have given me a run for my money. He was really good tonight, and so was Ray, for that matter. But just really great race. Everybody raced with a lot of respect. No big crashes like everybody predicted. At least I don't think there were. I have to go back and watch. But it seemed like a great race from my seat, and I hope that everybody at home watching enjoyed it too.
Mike, you mentioned the track getting greasy and getting a little slick at the end of the race. Walk us through those last laps, especially as you ran through lap traffic. How difficult was it for you? How difficult was it to navigate through that traffic, avoid those rolling chicanes, as it were, on older tires and a track that was getting more and more slick with every lap?
It was really tough, Joe. I mean, everybody in front of me that I was going to lap was all racing for position. It's not like they were on different laps or weren't really racing for anything. They were all, in a pack racing for, points, which are really important now that the chase is starting after this week. So I respected them. They respected me. I knew that I couldn't just run up through there like a madman and try to break them up, because I knew that they were racing for something. So I tried to give them as much room as possible. People gave me a lot of room tonight. Trietson was really good, so I appreciate that. And Landon and Brian and everybody else did a good job, racing themselves, but also giving the leaders a lot of room and didn't really affect the outcome. So that was really good on their part. But yeah, 87 degrees and partly cloudy skies. Man, it was greasy. I mean, it felt like we were driving a car with 50-lap old tires on it every lap. But I mean, hey, that makes it fun. I enjoyed it. I mean, when I was out front pulling away, I was smiling. And when Nick was catching me, I wasn't smiling, of course. I was getting a little bit nervous. But either way, it was a really fun race. I don't know what my plans are for next year for DWC. I know that I said I was running part-time this year, and obviously that's not the case anymore. But I don't know what I'm going to do next year. But even if I'm not running next year, I really hope that they keep the road course on the schedule, maybe add one more, because road courses are really great for the NASCAR series. The cars really rack well to them, and I think they put on a really good show.
Mike, let me ask you this real quick. Obviously, setting up and preparing for a road course race totally different than an oval race. For those who may not have spent as much time on the road races, on the road courses, like Watkins Glen, like Sonoma, how much more different is setting up for one of those courses? How much more difficult is it, I should say, to set up for one of those courses than maybe setting up for an oval course?
Oh, it's a completely different ball game because you have to start off the week knowing what kind of setup you want to run. And I'll break this down without trying to sound too Chad Knaus-ish. You either have a symmetrical setup where everything is even left to right because you're making left and right hand corners, or you can set the car up asymmetrically to suit the track. And because Watkins Glen has a majority of right hand corners, we decided to go with an asymmetrical setup after finding a little bit more speed with that. So that was the first thing that we had to tackle. Then we had to tackle the lack of grip. And everywhere we went this year, we've been going for maximum aerodynamic grip. The front end sucked down to the track and running softer rear springs and having the rear end down speed, a lot of straightaway speed. That didn't work this week because there wasn't any grip, so we had to jack the rear end of the car up, try to get the nose pretty level so when we went up the S's it didn't fork the car one way or another. But we found that a lot of rake, which is again the difference between the front height and the rear height, really gave the car a lot of grip on exit. That thing went through the S's like crazy. It was always good there, no matter how bad the car was everywhere else. And it worked out well. Myself and Jason Lofing put a lot of time into this, just like we do every week, along with Tom Lewandowski, and came up with a pretty good package. I think the 05 and Ray had something a little bit better for the really, really long runs, but I could just get going the first 5 laps and put a nice gap between myself and them, and they couldn't really make it up. So it worked out great. Like I said, the car wasn't driving very good at the end. It was really pushy and loose, and it was a handful. But that's what we get paid to do. We get paid to drive ill-handling cars and get good finishes for the sponsors and everybody that watches the series. So I'm glad I could deliver tonight. I think I did a pretty solid job all the way around, and like I said, everybody else put on a great show tonight. So I'm really glad that this race went like it did.
Real quick, I know you want to get to celebrating win number 3 this season. Who makes it work for you, buddy?
Sim Pedals, Michael Main, Main Performance PC as always. The RCRL with David Ankeny, thank him for all of his support. JDR Graphics at Jeremy Lukaska, that's his Twitter handle. Everybody else, the whole J-Show Motorsports Drill Isle Alliance, just everybody that's helped me get to this point. I appreciate all of you, and with 4 races to go, I think we're in the points lead now. We'll see how the drops way out, but it was nice to get a win tonight in the wake of all of the tragedy that's been going on lately with the sprint car accident, and Robin Williams passing away yesterday. So a lot of tragedy. So I'm glad that I could get some sort of positives going tonight for at least myself and my family, because it's been a rough week for everybody in the racing world, the entertainment world, everywhere. So looking forward to next week at Atlanta. Should have a good piece there too, and we'll just have to try to keep Nick and Ray behind us for the next 4 races and see if we can't bring home a championship for J-Show.
Mike County finishing first for the 3rd time in the 2014 NASCAR Peak Antifreeze Series, powered by iRacing.com. Tony Stevens caught up with a 2nd place driver, Nick Ottinger.
With Nick Ottinger, and Nick, how much was left in that Camry at the end of the race, or had you used it all up by the time the checkered flag came down?
I about used every single thing I had, man. I was cranking brake into it, try to get it to slow down. I mean, I was good at, I'd say I was probably better at 75% of the track, but I lose too much at the S's. I was just too free, and I mean, I was driving my butt off. There ain't no joke about that. I was trying like heck to catch back up the mic, and I seen traffic in front of us, and unfortunately I came out of pit road and everything had a little traffic that I got caught behind, and I'd say it probably cost at the time a loss by, but it's another thing passing Mike. I mean, that was a lot of fun, and I want to say congrats to Mike, because that was one heck of a race, man. I want to do it again, though.
I'm sure you want to do it again and make adjustments to fix that car through the S's. Did you even think you were going to have a shot at him the way the race started playing out in the early part and through the mid stages?
Yes and no. I mean, you get a lot of traffic here, especially at a road course, passing people, and I knew I had a car and myself. I knew I can try my best to get up there, of course, but just I was once it played out and everything, I had to pit earlier then so I can jump Ray because I was getting held up by him so much that first run, and I lost a little bit of time to Mike. I'd say when I came off pit road and everything, and when he came out. I mean, overall, I think it was fair. I mean, we drove our butts off, and I was trying like heck to get to him, and he was trying like heck to make sure I couldn't get to him. So
it was fun to watch, no doubt. Now we've gotten past the first 13 weeks of the season. We're into the final 4 races of the year: Atlanta, Richmond, Darlington, and Homestead. Rate your chances, and what do you have to do to pull off a championship and $10,000 over the course of 4 more races?
Myself, I'm gonna have to stop making mistakes like I did in Indy. Honestly, I screwed up a race-winning car there, no doubt, and cost us the points lead. So I expect us to bring just what we did tonight, bring a race-winning car every single race, and that's what I expect out of myself. So I think our chances are real high, and I'm pretty confident we can do it. So.
Well, he's going to find out how good he is over the course of the last 4 races, guys. Second place tonight, that's Nick Ottinger, just a few seconds off the winner, Mike Conti. Tim?
And we're going to catch up with driver number 2, Ray Alfowler, who comes home in position number 3 here this evening, and we'll see if we can get a hold of Ray here. And Ray, let's talk about your race. I know you wanted a little bit more than 3rd place, but 50 laps goes a long distance around this racetrack. Talk about Watkins Glen.
Yeah, well, we'll take it. You know, we made a few lefts, a lot of rights, and we got 3rd. Nothing really happened in the race. I was racing Nick for second the first stint, and then stayed out long enough to lead a lap, and Nick had short pitted me, and he came out in front of me and kind of just pulled away. And the rest of the race, I just enjoyed Chad Coleman on spectator chat till he got arrested.
And it's a different mentality compared to a oval that we see each week. Obviously, you enjoyed the scenery out front for a lot of laps last week at Indianapolis, and now we come to Watkins Glen and still finish in the top 3. A little bit of a different pace, though, compared to what we would see with an oval.
Yeah, I kind of would like if there were yellows, just so we would have to deal with what they deal with in real life, which is late race restarts and all the pressure that goes behind that. So it would be nice if we could have the code to permit full course cautions, and if we could get that rolling so we could have more of a NASCAR style road course, because I mean that's what NASCAR on road racing kind of comes down to, is the pressure on late restarts and all that, and this just going green all the way kind of just spreads the field out. And there was a good race for the lead there at the end, but you know, for the most part it was kind of just running around and finishing the race. So I would like to have some more excitement. I'm probably biased because I wasn't in the lead, but you know.
So now the bulk of the schedule is done. We're going to factor in the drop, and then we're going to go 4 races where you really have to be on your marks. How does this change your game plan, knowing that you cannot afford to stumble at Atlanta, Richmond, Darlington, or Homestead if you want to win your 3rd championship?
It's kind of been like that. It was like that last year, and we had 2 straight weeks with wrecks. So the hurt really hurt me. I've been really consistent all year, finishing with worst finishes 21st, and some of the other guys have had really bad finishes, which they get to eliminate. So it really set me back quite a bit. I'm still second in points, but the drop week definitely hurt me there. So we'll see. We'll still have 4 races left and a lot of racing, including we still have Darlington and Richmond back to back, which is great. So I'm looking forward to those.
Yeah, but before we get there, we go to Atlanta, which is a little bit of a different racetrack in itself compared to your Richmond and your Darlington. What are your expectations with this build coming up in 2 weeks when we hit Atlanta?
I have no idea. You know, unfortunately, Atlanta has a lot of grip on here, and it really shouldn't. So, you know, it should be the track with the least amount of grip, and it's not, which is a shame. And I think I've complained about that my entire tenure here, but you know, it's just the way the asphalt works and the code. They can't, you know, they haven't been able to model the asphalt grinding up the tires like it does in real life, because Atlanta has a lot of grip for 1 lap and then it starts eating the tires up. And we pretty much just have Atlanta as a green track. So it's very fast. You know, it's kind of like Atlanta repaved, you know, in a sense. So we'll see what happens. It's hard to say what'll happen with the way the new build is. I think my spotter Jordan Hightower was calling it Daytona Light. So we'll see what happens.
You mentioned some of those teammates that are helping you get to the track each week. You mentioned some of the marketing partners who makes it happen for Ray Alfalo.
Yeah, thanks to Mid Performance PC Sim Pedals. The pedals were great tonight again. Progi Consulting, New Blog Hosting, Disabled Racers, STEM X, JD Art Graphics. Thanks JD later for paint scheme. Expect a really nice paint scheme for the Richmond night race. Peak for sponsoring the series. It's a huge thing for our series. iRacing and everybody at Slip Angle Motorsports for the work this week. Was a little bit different with the road course, but we did all we could do. And of course, Jordan Hightower and JD Laird for spotting and crew chiefing and keeping things exciting. And again, thanks to Chad Coleman for the entertainment. That was great.
And that's Ray Alfalo coming home in position at number 3 this evening. I believe Joe Cortez has caught up with our 4th place finisher.
BJ Sturgis, driver of the number 57 machine. BJ has experience in both the NASCAR PK Antifreeze Series powered by iRacing.com and the iRacing Grand Prix Series. And let me ask you this, BJ, how much more different is it driving the Grand Prix Formula One car here versus the NASCAR Gen 6 car here? And do you feel that experience in the Grand Prix Formula One car gave you an advantage here at Watkins Glen in the Gen 6 car?
Well, to be honest, it's actually pretty much a completely different ball game. This car moves around so much around the track, and you have to keep track of your braking and the wheel hop. Everything takes place so much slower, but the F1 car, you're on the razor's edge in every single turn, and just trying to mentally keep up with this is a lot more difficult. But it definitely helped me out with all the experience and road racing that I have, and helped me get this nice 4th place finish, which is really good for the points and still getting closer to that top 20 every week.
Top 20 definitely getting into focus now, especially considering we're only 4 races away from the season coming to a close. How confident are you that when everything's said and done, we'll see BJ Sturgis in at least position 20 in the points?
Well, that's what I'm hoping for, but as you know, anything can happen out there in these races, so just gotta keep trying to finish solid and finish all the laps of all the races and keep it clean, and if I can do that these last 4 races, it'll give me a really good shot into getting into that top 20.
Tonight's race definitely a bit of a challenge considering there's no yellow flags, no opportunities to reset the car. That being said, how challenging was the race because of those difficulties, and how much more fun was the race in spite of those difficulties?
Well, being a road racer, I'm pretty much used to it, but I thought it was a lot of fun tonight, doing something a little bit different in these cars than the usual 1.5-mile tracks, and was trying my best to hold Matt off there at the end, and he got a little messed up with the lap traffic, which gave me that little bit of gap that I needed to keep ahead of him. But congrats to Mike on the win. It was pretty amazing, his pace today. I guess doesn't really surprise me with the season he's been having, but congrats to him and Nick and Ray and the podium finishes, and of course thanks to everyone at my team Inex, Lastro Motorsports, and with all the road racing experience between the 2 teams, we really were able to put something good together for this that helped out a lot, and thanks to Simroom and V Racing for their sponsoring. They have some really great sim racing products that you should go check out, and iRacing and Peak for putting on this great series.
4 races left in the series. What is your outlook? What are you looking forward to the most in the next 4 racing weeks we have?
Well, to be honest, Richmond is the one I'm looking forward to. I kind of struggled there in pro, but it's usually been a good track for me, and hopefully I can figure a little bit of something out to run better there and race there in a couple of weeks.
BJ Sturgis finishing 4th here tonight. Great run tonight. I'm sure we'll see you in 2 weeks when you go to Atlanta.
Okay, thanks, Joe.
BJ Sturgis finishing 4th, Tony.
And the guy that finished in 5th started in 4th here tonight. That's Matt Busa. Matt, you guys were kind of in a class by yourselves there at the back end of the top 10. Anything different you really could have done, or was that pretty much where you were going to fall and you knew that at the beginning of the night?
Well, I knew based on qualifying and warm-up I would
probably end up around 4th to 6th. I knew both PJ and Jake would be quick. And I think if maybe he had a little bit faster pit stop and flap traffic was a bit kinder at some points in the race, then may have got to Peter's bumper, but I don't know if I would have been able to pass him. It's really tough here.
Why is passing so tough at Watkins Glen? And we saw a lot of it back through the field, but up front seemed to be at a real premium.
Well, up front, it seemed we were a bit closer on like pace. So just being able to get a run off the corner when it's so loose on exit with really slick conditions we had. And under braking, unless you're like Ambrose and you can outbrake almost anyone, then there's a lot of wheel hop. So it's going to be really hard to outbrake somebody here too.
Either way, you were one of the masters tonight, coming home in the 5th spot. Now we focus on the last 4 races, the mini chase, if you will, as we've sort of dubbed it. 4 very different racetracks. You find yourself inside the top 10 in points with arguably a remote shot at a title. Is that something that's on your brain going into those races, or is it just a matter of go try to win 4 races and let the points fall where they may?
I don't know. Title's pretty far out there, but I'm more of a realist, so honestly, I'm just looking for a top 5 in points. That's my goal, around 5th or 4th. I think I like 20 points out of that or something. So that's probably my goal there. But yeah, it's been a great season so far. Thanks to my guys at Gale Force, we had another nice ride here tonight. And a nice looking ride too, thanks to Chuck Diesel and Grip Motorwear. I have a 2-race sponsored deal that ended tonight. And Grip Motorwear, you can get really cool looking shirts and hats and sunglasses and some other custom motorwear. And I also think, well, pretty much this race is all due to Nick Ottinger. He made the setup all by himself, basically. Because I do a lot of road racing for fun, but I have no idea how to set these things up on a road course. And he put a lot of time in, so this was all because of him. Can't thank him enough. Also thanks to Peak for sponsoring the series.
That's Matt Busa. He comes home in 5th. Another solid top 5 finish. Puts him in prime spot for a top 5 in the points coming down to the season's end, Tim.
Final thoughts before we close this one off. And Tony, this was a pretty exciting race that we had here this evening. Very quick-paced race, done in 1 hour and 2 minutes for Michael Conti. And then you had Ottinger, Alfala, Sturgis, and Busa. Those top 5 seemed to be the real class of the field all night long. Then you had some pockets of battles throughout this field as well.
There were some battles throughout the field. There were a lot of guys, as we said, just trying to hold on. That in itself was almost more fun than trying to watch some of the racing go on, because you had a lot of fish who were out of water here and somehow managed to get some liquid back through their gills before everything was finally over with tonight. But just a dominating performance by Mike Conti. I mean, we haven't seen domination like that in quite a long time on any sort of racetrack. But it was fun to watch Nick Ottinger try to reel him in, knowing that he probably had a deficient race car compared to what Conti had. Nonetheless, he gave it his all, and that, I think, is what makes the NASCAR Peak Antifreeze Series exactly what it is. And that gives the difference up front, a pretty substantial difference, really. It's about 23 points between the top guys, Tim, and that's pretty large, from Conti back to Ray Alfala, Nick Ottinger, Chad Lawton. And I think that means, Joe, we're going to see a pretty heated championship chase as everybody tries to chase down the part-timer who decided he wanted to come and try to whoop up on him before the season was over with.
Unofficially, 23 points is the difference in the lead with 4 races left to go. Now, obviously, there's a lot of calculations that need to go into that and some things that need to happen before it's official, but 23 points is the number we're calculating right now here in the booth. 23 could define a championship season for young Michael Conti, but he's got to go through the gauntlet of the next 4 races, which will be a test of his ability, his focus, and his concentration as we get ready to do it. Then you have other drivers that have been more experienced, like Ray Alfala, like Nick Ottinger and BJ Sturgis, Matt Busa, all who have that experience, who have that know-how, that knowledge to do this racing. So the next 4 weeks are going to be critical and are going to be arguably be the most exciting 4 weeks in the 5-year history of the NASCAR Peak Antifreeze Series powered by iRacing.com that we have ever seen. The first time ever in history we have ourselves a mini chase, and it starts in 2 weeks when we go racing in Atlanta.
Going into the final race of this, or the final 4 races of the season, Michael Conti 407, Ray Alfala 384, Nick Ottinger 381, and Chad Lawton 378, with Chris Overland and Jake Sturgis at 362 and 353 respectively. That's the points when you factor in that one drop unofficially with 4 races to go. So at this point, gentlemen, it appears to be a 4-horse race with 2 sitting in the background, possibly waiting for something to happen. And you can throw in Matt Busa there as well at 339, because we saw a pretty big comeback last year in the final 4 races of this season. Going to be exciting. 2 weeks' time, the Atlanta Motor Speedway plays host to the NASCAR Peak Antifreeze Series powered by iRacing. You're not going to want to miss that or the following 3 events to close off this season. We'll see if Michael Conti can come out as a champion, or will Ray Alfala come out as a 3-time champion. We'll find out in the next 2 months or so, the next 4 races in this series. So for everybody here that helps put this thing on, Ilka Hapala, Zach Stanko, Ian Bushing, Matt Racing Kid Thomas, Chuck Johnson, Joe Cortez, Tony Stevens, my name is Tim Terry. We'll see you in 2 weeks' time when we say, let's go racing from the Atlanta Motor Speedway. Keep the hammer down, and we'll see you at the track.
Having no cautions.
What's inside Peak Antifreeze? 65 years of experience in hot and cold protection. From an independent, family-owned business that's never been afraid to give you exactly what's right for your engine and your wallet. Peak. Run true.
Race fans, it's time for those most famous words in motorsports. Drivers, start your engines!
checkered flag, he wins his first NASCAR iRacing.